Здравствуйте, товарищи. Welcome back to Russian Through Propaganda. Today's day 34. We're looking at some more time expressions today to start off with, and then we're going to talk about how to translate the English for, right, the preposition for into Russian. That's a very confusing topic, so we're going to try to run over those the most common examples here today. Um, Now, first, let's learn the months, right? We learned the days of the week yesterday on day 33. Today, let's learn the months. And fortunately, praise God, right? Slava Bogu, praise be to God, right? These are essentially the names of the months we're used to, right? Now, a lot of Slavic languages, for example, Czech and Polish, have their own special Slavic names for the months, which are very interesting. Uh, Also, kind of crazy, some of them. So, for example, a given month may be the month that's freezing cold, the month when the leaves are falling. Well, that makes sense. But others are a bit more odd, like the month where you grind up a special kind of dried up worm to make a red dye, or the month when the deer are rutting, right? So, or the month when the birch trees are blooming, and so on and so forth. Okay, so those are really difficult. And truth be told, I teach Czech and Polish, but I have to consult the list of months almost every time I do that topic because not only are they weird to start with, but they don't always line up across the Slavic languages. So the Slavic name of a given month in Czech may be different from the one in Polish, and it's just one of those topics where I feel like I'm too old to learn this. I can't do it. I'm too lazy. Um, okay, so but by the way, there are other Slavic languages where the months are like the ones we're used to, and again, fortunately, Russian happens to be one of them. So this is a fairly easy topic. We really just need to learn how to spell these and how to pronounce them in the Russian style, but they're not really that hard to learn. So we should be thankful. Okay, let's look at a quick poster, a rather famous one. Да здравствует 1 мая. May, the 1st of May, be healthy, literally, right? But we're just kind of hailing, we're saluting the 1st of May, right? Long live the 1st of May. All hail the 1st of May. 1 Maya. Okay, so the starting form for May in Russian is Mai. Mai. Okay, that makes sense. Sounds pretty similar to the English. And here we have it in the what case? Genitive, right? The 1st of May. 1 Maya, День труда. The 1st of May is Labor Day, the day of labor. Okay, let's look over a table and start out with the nominative, right? That's what we would use to simply name the month. And then, as usual, we could say in a certain month. Now, as you might guess, right, without knowing any better, we just guess, well, the plus prepositional is how we say in January, in February, and that's exactly what we get. Okay, we could also, again, thrown in here just for sake of example, right, from and until, right? If we're specifying a duration from one month to another, we get these genitive expressions. Okay, let's read. Let's start out simply with the nominative and then saying in the month for practice. You'll notice that a lot of these, I guess almost half of them are in-stressed, right? The ones ending in an er or, well, in one case with February and L, right? So that's something to watch out for, right? Some of these nouns happen to be in-stressed. Okay, let's read through them. Январь, в январе. Февраль, в феврале. Март, в марте. Апрель, в апреле. Май, в мае. Note that's two syllables, right? В мае. Again, remember we're pronouncing the v as though it were part of the word that follows, right? It's not an extra syllable. There's no pause after the v. So we get, again, vmaya, vmaya, vmaye, two syllables, vmaya. Июнь, right? That gives в июне, июль, в июле, август, в августе, сентябрь, в сентябре. Okay, there's again, that's in stressed. Октябрь, в октябре, in October. Ноябрь, в ноябре. Декабрь в декабре. Okay, let's say from. Well, let's do the until column. That maybe is a bit. I don't know what, more convenient for some reason. До. We just need the genitive forms, right? So again, note that a lot of these are in stressed. For example, до января, до февраля, до марта, до апреля, до мая, до июня, до июля, до августа, до сентября, до октября, до ноября, до декабря. Okay, so now again, we can throw in those adjectives we learned yesterday. Этот, meaning this. Прошлый, meaning past or last or previous. And следующий, meaning following or next, right? We can throw those in to say in this month or in this January, if we're being very specific, or literally in last January. Okay, so for example, в этом месяце, в прошлом месяце, в следующем месяце, or в этом январе, в прошлом январе, в следующем январе. Okay, we see a poster here for Октябрь, which is a film of Sergei Eisenstein, right? Это фильм Сергея Эйзенштейна об Октябрьской революции. Okay, what do you think that phrase means? I'm not sure we've had this vocabulary yet. Well, it's about the October Revolution, right? Об Октябрьской революции. You see there, революция is cognate, right, with revolution. That's a special soft feminine. And we can tell that Октябрьский is simply an adjective takes the Октябрь, the name of the month, which is a noun, adds ski, and we get a new adjective meaning something October related, right? The October Revolution. Okay, let's just fill in a few blanks here again, making sure we're using the right case. In January, I have an exam in history, a history exam. В январе у меня экзамен по истории. Number 2, you will be at us in Moscow, meaning you'll be visiting us, maybe you'll even be staying with us, right? Ты будешь у нас в Москве в октябре. Okay, now I notice this is actually a question. So we're asking, will you visit us? Will you be at us literally in October? Ты будешь у нас? Right, now note the intonation is rising and falling on the point of the question, which appears to be, will you be or will you not be? Right, ты будешь у нас в Москве в октябре? Number 3, I'll be in Peter, which is kind of slang for Petersburg, from June until November. Okay, here we need the genitive endings. Я буду в Питере с июня до ноября. Okay, number 4, from which month will you be here, right? Meaning starting in which month, as of which month. С какого месяца ты будешь здесь? Well, as of April, right? From April. С апреля. Number 5, а до какого месяца, right? Okay, a follow-up question, right? Until which month? До декабря, right? Until December. I'll be here until December. Number 6, in which month do we have an exam? В каком месяце у нас экзамен? We'll say in May, в мае. Now note there that we dropped the и краткое, right? We no longer need that because we have the soft vowel to represent that spelling, right? Ye plus the vowel в мае. Number 7, I was in Russia literally in last February. Я была в России в прошлом феврале. Again, in stressed noun, феврале. Number 8, in July, I will work in a restaurant. В июле я буду работать в ресторане. Number 9, but in August, I'll be back at the university. А в августе я буду снова в университете. Okay, there we've dropped the ya in the book, which is possible, especially in sort of informal speech. Although again, I don't generally advise students to drop pronouns as a habit. You'll learn later when it kind of sounds okay to do that. Okay, anyway. Although again, it's not really that big of a deal. If you drop a pronoun, no one's going to right, lose it. Okay, uh, let's see, number 10. I will be free from May until June. Буду свободна. Again, there we dropped the я, right? Я буду свободна or буду свободна с мая до июня. До июня. Number 11, from December, I'll be in Vladivostok. Right? As of December, starting in December, с декабря я буду во Владивостоке. Я буду во Владивостоке. Number 12, my family will live there until March. Моя семья будет жить там до марта. Number 13, in November, they will have a concert. В ноябре у них будет концерт. В ноябре. Number 14, in April, I'll be in США, meaning the USA. США, I'm not sure we've mentioned, is short for Соединенные Штаты Америки, the unified or United States of America, right? Genitive. America, we get Америки to express of America, the United States of America, США. В апреле я буду в США. Or usually that sounds more like США. I think we saw that back on like day 2 or something, day 2 or day 3, those acronyms. США, but normally it sounds more like США, right? 2 syllables. Okay, a few discussion questions. Just tell in which month you have these things. В каком месяце, for example, экзамен по русскому языку, right? Your Russian exam. В каком месяце у нас начало этого семестра? Этого семестра. Right, when is the start of the semester? Начало этого семестра. When is the end of the semester? Конец этого семестра. When's the start of the following semester? Right? В каком месяце начало следующего семестра? Or when's the end of the next semester, the following semester? Конец следующего семестра. Okay, note these genitives with начало and конец, right? The end of, the beginning of. What about весенние каникулы? Spring break. Now this term каникулы is kind of funny. It's plural only grammatically. There's a footnote on that in the book. We haven't done plurals yet, so this is just kind of a vocab item. We don't really understand these endings yet. Весенние каникулы means spring break. Осенние каникулы means fall break. Летние каникулы means summer break. Now you may notice also that all 3 of these adjectives, which by the way are time related, they are true soft adjectives, right? We're writing an E here not because of some spelling rule, but because these stems are inherently soft. These adjectives end in a soft N. We haven't talked about soft adjectives like that yet. We'll add them later. I think we'll introduce them in book 2, certainly by book 3. Okay, let's summarize quickly some various questions we can ask about time and give some sample answers. Again, this is a tricky topic because whenever you're talking about time, right, depending on the expression, you can have any number of cases, prepositions involved, and so it's very easy to just sort of lose track of it. So I think the best way to learn it is go through the grammar, which by the way is usually extremely easy, right? But the trick is remembering all the particular expressions. So one way to do that is to learn the questions you can ask and then various ways to answer that question. For example, когда, we're telling when something is happening. For example, в какой день, on what day. Now there we're getting the accusative. Sample answer, в пятницу, right? We're answering in the accusative. Here's another really useful general principle for Russian, and we're going to return to this later in several instances. Very often a question will kind of set you up. It'll provide you with the grammar needed to answer the question in Russian, right? As you know, that makes perfect sense, right? В какой день, the formula there is в plus accusative. When we're telling on what day something happened. So в какой день is the question, в plus accusative, And the answer is в plus accusative, в пятницу. So that can be a really useful little trick when you're beginning to speak Russian, right? Listen carefully to the question, and that'll prompt you quite often uh, in terms of your answer. Another example of that is that we've seen already is in terms of aspectual choice, right? If someone asks you a question in the imperfective, for example, что ты делал вчера? What were you doing yesterday? Well, that sounds like it's calling for one or several imperfective verbs to tell what you were in the process of doing. Right, so that's something to think about generally whenever you're seeing questions and then trying to answer them. Okay, на какой неделе? In what week, or literally on what week? На этой неделе, right? A sample answer. В каком месяце? Okay, with months, we're getting в plus prepositional. For example, в следующем месяце. В каком году? With years, we're also getting в plus prepositional. For example, в прошлом году. Okay, now some from until, right? Some duration expressions, all of these taking the genitive. С какого дня? С понедельника. С какого месяца? С января. До какого дня? До воскресенья. До какого месяца? До июня. Okay, как долго, that's asking a rather different question. For how long, right? That's a duration question, not really a when question. Right, so some sample answers. Совсем недолго, right? Not long at all, недолго. Now, a duration expression just simply in the accusative, час, right? For an hour. That's just simply a noun all by itself in the accusative. Целую неделю, весь день, right? Some more accusatives of duration. Finally, как часто, okay, that's how we would ask about repetition. And with repetition, our only expression we've really learned so far is каждый, right? That calls for the accusative. Каждый день, каждую неделю, каждый год. And then we've also seen some adverbs that can express repetition or lack thereof, right? Очень редко, right? Very rarely. Okay, why don't you try a few of these expressions to answer these questions? And again, look very closely at what the question's answering, right? And choose an appropriate answer from this little table. Как часто ты смотришь телевизор? How often do you watch television? Right? For example, каждый день, каждый месяц. Number 3, как долго ты работаешь каждый день? For how long do you work every day, right? Как долго ты работаешь каждый день? Okay, that's a duration question, right? Not how often, but again, for how long. Sorry, I skipped number 2. Как долго ты обычно смотришь телевизор? For how long do you normally watch television? Right, again, a duration question. Okay, number 4. In what year did you begin to study the Russian language? В каком году ты начал или начала изучать русский язык? So you could say в этом году, probably, or в прошлом году, right? Number 5. В каком месяце у тебя день рождения? In what month is your day of birth? Is your birthday? В каком месяце? У меня день рождения в феврале. В феврале, right? My birthday is in February, right? У меня день рождения в день Святого Валентина. My birthday is Valentine's Day, right? Now look at that. I have my birthday в день, right? On the day. So there's that little formula for telling when something happens on a day. And so this is a slightly different expression, but it's still the same idea, right? В день Святого Валентина. On the day of Saint Valentine, right? Святого Валентина. Or Святой Валентин would be the nominative. Okay. Number 6. Когда ты будешь в России? С какого месяца до какого месяца? Okay, when will you be in Russia? And now we get a span, right? A duration. From what month until what month? Okay, 34.3. This is a bit of a, maybe not the best, I don't know what little unit, right? But these adverbs can be a bit of a problem because there's really not much to say about them, right? We know already that they're the simplest type of part of speech in Russian because they never change, right? So we don't need to learn a bunch of endings. We don't really need to learn anything about them um, except the adverbs themselves, right? So what you sort of end up with in Russian is kind of just a vocabulary list. And as always with vocab, there's no magic trick for learning it. You just have to memorize them essentially. And so what happens very often is students just don't learn these. They learn very few of them. Now that's a shame because these are so common, right? Think about it. And we've already seen a lot of them already, like всегда, часто, обычно, right? These words are used all the time. So, in terms of vocab, this list right here, I've tried to give you a quick summary of the ones we've seen, and there are a few new ones we're probably throwing in here, and kind of grouping them with, adverbs as we've discussed that are often seen with imperfectives or with perfectives, or they may be qualifying adverbs like very good, rather good, too good, right? That type of qualifying adverb that's often used with another adverb or with an adjective, and then a few other kind of random examples. Okay, so let's just read through the table just for pronunciation practice. And again, I would really recommend adding this to whatever your vocab notebook or however it is you learn vocabulary, and really insist on learning all of these. Okay, so let's start with a few that usually imply the imperfective for reasons we've already discussed, right? Now, you might, for review purposes, you might think as we go through this list, why do these normally imply the imperfective? Right? Why would we call them imperfective red flags? Okay, всегда, часто, обычно, регулярно, иногда, редко, никогда не. Okay, now note the не, that of course is going to go along with a verb, and that's actually an example of double negation. We're going to talk about that later, right? So for now, let's just learn this adverb as this kind of phrase, никогда не. More on that later. Although we might say quickly, what are we really doing there? We're saying things like «Я никогда не смотрю телевизор». In Russian, what we're literally saying is «I don't never watch television», right? We have a double negation, which is usually considered substandard in terms of formal English. I don't remember if I discussed this already. I may have. I think I did actually. But again, as English speakers, we're maybe tempted to think that that's somehow wrong, even though depending on what kind of English you actually speak, you may do this constantly on a daily basis. Anyway, we're going to learn later that this is the rule in Russian. We have to have double, triple, quadruple negation in Russian. And again, that's explaining why we're getting the никогда не. So more on that topic later. Okay, let's keep moving. Долго, недолго, давно уже, for a long time already or for a long time now. Еще, уже не, right? Already not, literally, or as we usually say in English, not anymore. Сейчас, теперь, раньше. Okay, now some adverbs that usually imply perfective. Now remember that these are not as reliable as red flags, because if we introduce something that's happening right now or that's happening repeatedly, then we move over into the imperfective, right? Опять. So let's take that for example. The kid is torturing the cat again. Okay, so obviously that's present tense, so that would be an imperfective verb, right? But if you think, typically you say things like, well, the cat spilled the milk again, right? So it's usually going to be described this one instance of something that's happened yet again, right? So again, you can see how that would usually imply the perfective, right? A one-time event, but not necessarily by any means, right? The moment we get present tense, right, ongoing activity or repetition, we slip over into the imperfective. Еще раз, still time, right? Still once, right? Meaning one more time. Снова, скоро, вдруг, только что, right? Just now, meaning something's just happened. Только что. Со временем, meaning literally with time or eventually. eventually. Недавно, recently, not long ago. Заранее, впервые, for the first time, that's a useful one. Сначала, потом, наконец. I think we've seen those with sequences, right? First, then, and finally. Сначала, потом, наконец. Remember, if you're describing a sequence like that, that would normally be perfective, right? Unless it's a repeating sequence, right? Then, of course, you'd get imperfective verbs. Еще не, right? Still not, or as we'd say in English, not yet. Уже вовремя. Now, a few qualifying adverbs that we learned back in chapter 1, I think. Очень, довольно, слишком, совсем, ужасно, сравнительно, много, мало. Right, those final two I'm not sure we saw earlier. Those are easy, right? Pretty simple. For example, on я читаю много, я много читаю. I read a lot versus я мало читаю. I read little. I don't read much. You could throw in очень. Я читаю очень много. I read a lot, right? A very lot or something. I don't know how you would say that. I read a lot. Очень много. Or очень мало. I read very little. Okay, a few others. Только, тоже, быстро, медленно, почти, давно. Okay, so again, we've seen most of these. Some of them are new, but in any case, these are all extremely useful. Print them out, roll them up, put them under your pillow at night, and maybe you'll learn them by osmosis. Okay, by the way, let's look at a quick poster. Шоссе не космос. Right, the highway is not outer space, meaning you should probably, obey the speed limit. So we could say that we could wag our finger together with this disembodied hand right on the poster and say, это слишком быстро, that is too fast. You're driving too fast. Okay, so again, the слишком is a qualifying adverb. It's telling us how quickly. Well, too quickly, too fast. Okay, let's try a few of these to creating some Russian sentences. You work too much. Ты работаешь слишком много. Right? Too much. Слишком много. I'm almost always working. Я работаю. Okay, there's our subject and verb. And the almost always, почти всегда. Right? We're combining a couple of adverbs there. Почти всегда. Number 3, I never relax anymore. Okay, again, we're combining a couple of these. Anymore, literally already not. Уже не. Now we need to throw in a никогда. Я уже никогда не отдыхаю. Я уже никогда не отдыхаю. Okay, there's a nice example. That's, grammatically an extremely simple little sentence. Because the adverbs never change, but you can see how you combine a couple of adverbs and you get some rather, well, not sophisticated, but extremely useful and, extremely useful expressions. Я уже никогда не отдыхаю. Number 4, I would relax before, but now I can't. Okay, before that or previously, that's раньше. We discussed that in chapter 2, I think. Раньше я отдыхал. Imperfective, right? I would relax. That used to be your habit, right? Before, previously, you used to relax, but now I can't. Но теперь, right? Note the contrast. Теперь я не могу. Number 5, soon I'll be in Russia once again. Скоро, right? Soon. Скоро я буду в России. And how would we say again? Well, we could say опять, or a bit more, has more of a literary feel, I guess, снова. Снова. I'll be again in Russia. Number 6, we finally saw each other recently. Okay, finally, наконец. Мы, наконец, увиделись. Remember that reciprocal action. Мы увиделись. We saw each other. Recently, недавно. Наконец, Мы недавно увиделись. Or виделись, you could also say here, right? Meaning you got together, you met up or something. Okay, number 7. We haven't seen each other in a long time. Okay, now here, note we're going to need imperfective because we're talking, look at the cue there, in a long time or for a long time. That's a long duration. So this is a lack of seeing each other that's extended across time. We'd want to say мы не виделись. Мы не виделись давно. Мы давно не виделись. Okay, note давно means for a long time, right? Something has been happening for a long time now, right? As opposed to simply долго, which means just for a long time generally, expressing duration. So anyway, just contrast долго versus давно. Давно is looking specifically back into the past and saying, again, here, for example, we haven't seen each other for a long time now. That's давно. Мы давно не виделись. Number 8, we used to see each other quite often. Again, we could throw in again before. Раньше мы виделись quite often. Okay, 2 adverbs. Довольно часто. Quite often or rather often. Довольно часто. Мы виделись довольно часто. Number 9, eventually I got used to Russian food. Okay, со временем. With time. Со временем, or you might be able to say наконец, right? Finally. Со временем я привык к русской еде. Remember that phrase, я привык, I got used to, and in English, in Russian, we get к plus the dative. Я привык к русской еде. Number 10, I bought a ticket ahead of time. Okay, ahead of time is заранее, заранее. Я купил билет заранее. Okay, number 11, he did everything very quickly. Okay, now that seems to imply a one-time thing. He got everything done quickly. Он сделал все очень быстро. Он все сделал очень быстро. Okay, one more topic today that's really useful, and this is something that students ask about all the time. They forget we've sort of covered this, and they ask questions about, how do you say for in this example? So this is another little unit that you might want to circle because it's very useful. All these expressions are quite common. And again, as so often happens, the confusion really is because of English, right? Because in English, we're using one preposition for in a variety of different meanings, which really have very little to do with each other. And so in Russian, we're going to have to be more careful to draw these distinctions. So one way to learn this might be to simply learn a longer English translation for the word, right? Instead of simply for, you could say, well, this Russian for has to do with exchange, right? The idea of exchange, right? And that may help you differentiate between these various Russian prepositions. Okay, so let's start with 3 fairly simple ones. Для, which we've seen, I believe, takes the genitive. That's usually for a person, like you're doing something special for someone or for some particular purpose, right? But again, usually this is most commonly in speech, it's going to involve a person. У меня для тебя огромный сюрприз. I have a huge surprise for you, right? A surprise for you, a present for someone, that kind of idea. Or, for example, нам надо купить гель для душа, a gel for the douche, which means shower. Okay, so that second example is maybe a little bit less useful for beginning conversation, but it's one you'll see quite often. Okay, the second one, za, usually, now again, this is different from what we saw earlier, right? Yesterday we were using za in temporal expressions. Okay, so this is something a bit different, right? So again, we're starting to see now that Russian prepositions, sometimes they can mean various things given the construction, and in some cases they may even require a number of cases based on how they're being used, right? What the particular meaning is in a given example. Okay, so this is something different. This is not za in a temporal sense, but za implying a kind of exchange, right? So think, for example, when you're paying for something, there's this idea of exchange. You're giving money in exchange for whatever whatever it is you're paying for, right? So payment is going to get za. Кто сегодня заплатит за пиво? Who will pay for the beer? Or огромное спасибо за подарок. Thanks for the present. Well, again, think of exchange, right? Someone gave us a present, and in exchange, we're giving them our thanks, right? Спасибо за подарок. За can also mean, again, a fairly distinct meaning from exchange, being in favor of something, right? Now, I think historically this meaning came about because you're behind something, so to speak. You're assuming a position behind it. You're supporting it in that sense. But again, for present purposes, we can just think that za plus accusative can mean in favor of. Они за войну, а я против войны. Or, for example, солдат воевал за родину. We've seen that example in some propaganda posters, right? For one's homeland. Uh, now there's again a little bit different from in favor of, but you see how it's kind of in line with that idea, right? You're doing something um, for the benefit of your homeland. Maybe we could put it that way. Okay, finally, what plus genitive means for in the sense of what is a medicine for. In Russian, the idea is something like it treats you away from something. I guess that's one way to think about it literally. Мне нужно лекарство от кашля. I need a medicine away from coughing, right? I need a medicine for coughing. Лекарство от кашля. The noun there is кашель, which means a cough. It's a soft masculine. Or это таблетка от простуды. Это таблетка от простуды. This is a pill from cold, right? Or a cold pill. Okay, so that what with medicines is maybe not the most useful preposition, but who knows? You may need it if you need a certain medicine in Russian. Okay, the next item, this is even more confusing, right? Different ways we can use the preposition na plus the accusative. Okay, so this is, you see, an extremely useful preposition, and it can be used in a variety of meanings, all of which in English are going to translate as for, or at least can be translated that way. Okay, so these are some really useful examples here. For in the sense of plans or assignments. У вас есть планы на следующий год? Do you have plans for the next year? Okay, so the idea is a plan, so to speak, onto the next year. Right, we're looking forward to the future. We're not in the next year. We're thinking about plans directed toward or for or onto the following year. У нас есть работа на пятницу, right? We can use this for assignments. You've probably seen that on your syllabus or maybe heard it in class, right? Работа or задание на пятницу is your work, your assignment for Friday. Again, you could think of it literally as an assignment onto Friday. Okay, tickets or reservations for a certain event or a certain date. Я купила тебе билет на концерт. Or я заказал стол на завтра. For a purchase, like money for a purchase. У тебя есть деньги на билет? Дай мне деньги на метро. For a period of time. Я еду в Россию на месяц. Okay, again, note they were really talking about our plans, right? It's not something like I've been in Russia for a month. That's a different thing. That's just duration. Here we're talking about our plans, so to speak, onto a given, well, we're planning to go somewhere for a month, right? It's future directed and plan related, right? Мне нужна комната на 3 ночи. I need a room for 3 nights. Again, future related, plan related, a room for 3 nights. Finally, for an occasion. Again, we could also say that these are sort of future directed, right? Что ты купишь ей на день рождения? What will you buy her for her birthday? На Новый год мы подарили икру. For New Year's, right? Now here this is past tense, so it's not future directed, but we're still talking about something we did for an occasion, right? For New Year's, they gave us caviar. На Новый год нам подарили икру. Now, here's a fairly common point of confusion. What if you're asked about your plans, right? For example, у тебя есть планы на субботу? Okay, well, as we just learned, that's na plus accusative. Another example. Какие у тебя планы на следующую неделю? Right? What are your plans for the next week? Again, plans for some future date. We're using na plus accusative. But now, if you go to answer that question, you would be saying essentially, for example, on Saturday. You're now telling what's going to happen on Saturday. So you switch back to the basic expressions, the temporal expressions we've already learned. So here's a somewhat rare example of where we're not following the prompt of the question. We're kind of switching back to a different expression, right? Because we're no longer really talking about, for example, our plans for Saturday. We're rather telling what we will do on Saturday. We're simply stating very straightforwardly what we will do. So, for example, в субботу я буду отдыхать. Or на следующей неделе я должен буду работать. Next week, I'll have to work. Okay, let's look at a quick poster. Навсегда. Now, всегда we know means it's an adverb meaning always. Навсегда is kind of a little compound expression which has now become itself an independent adverb meaning forever, right? For always. And here we see the Bolshevik, right, the communist overthrowing, deposing the Russian Tsar, right, forever, навсегда. And this is referring to February of 1917, right, February of 1917, when Nicholas was finally forced to abdicate following the February Revolution. That led to the provisional government, which in Russian is called the Временное правительство, something more literally like the temporary government, which later that year in October, as you probably know, was overthrown by the Bolsheviks in the October Revolution. Right, so those are some important milestones, right? A very tumultuous year there in Russia, as you can tell. Okay, let's pick the proper prepositions here. I'll prompt you with kind of an English translation, and let's give the Russian. Now, again, the English will, I think, in all these examples, include for, so we're going to have to pick the preposition in Russian very carefully. My mother does everything for us. We should buy her a present. Okay, we're doing something for a person. That's going to be, see if you can guess it, для, right? Моя мама делает все для нас. Мы должны купить ей подарок. Number two, you should tell grandma thanks for the cake. Okay, there we have an idea of exchange. She's given us a cake and we're telling her thanks for the cake. That's going to be за. Ты должен сказать бабушке спасибо за торт. Number three, I'm headed to Moscow for a week, then I'll return home. Okay, these are future plans. For how long are you going to Moscow? Я еду в Москву на неделю. Right, for a week. Потом вернусь домой. Okay, this verb еду, that's a verb of motion. So we're going to learn about that. You'll learn more than you ever wanted to know about that verb in a few days. Okay, number four. У нас есть задание по русскому языку blank завтра. And now I realize this is a question. Okay, so we're talking about an assignment for tomorrow. That's going to be на. Right? У нас есть задание по русскому языку на завтра. Now, note again, the point of this question is, do we have an assignment or not? So the crux of the question is есть. And for that reason, the intonation rises and falls sharply on that word. У нас есть задание по русскому языку на завтра? Number five, do we have money for a ticket for the train? Okay, here we have two prepositions. They're both going to be на. У нас есть деньги на билет на поезд? Number six, can you not pay for the coffee and I'll pay tomorrow, right? Could you pay for the coffee? I'll pay tomorrow. Okay, заплатить, payment, we have a sense of exchange. That's going to be за. Ты не можешь заплатить за кофе, а я завтра заплачу. Number 7, let's order a table for Friday. Okay, we're booking something for a particular date. We could think maybe there's a sense of planning for the future that's usually going to involve na, and that's what we get here. Давайте закажем стол на пятницу. Number 8, what are your plans for this Saturday? Okay, again, future plans, that's going to be na plus accusative. Какие у тебя планы на эту субботу? Okay, well, what about your plans for the following Saturday? А на следующую? Right, a little follow-up question. А на следующую? Right, какие у тебя планы на следующую субботу? Number 9, that's a good plan for tomorrow. I'm for it. I'm in favor. Это хороший план на завтра. Я за. Я за. Okay, by the way, why isn't it на завтру? Well, because завтра is not a noun, it's an adverb, right? So again, there's a good example of how remembering that adverbs never change their form can help you, right? It may be tempting to think that's a feminine noun and put it into the accusative, but that's not possible with an adverb, right? So на завтра. Number 10, we asked, literally, at our neighbor money for a ticket for the train. Okay, we've had that example already. Maybe you could have been more creative in writing this exercise. Мы попросили у соседа деньги на билет на поезд. 11. What kind of assignment do we have in Russian for Monday? Okay, an assignment for Monday, again, sort of future directed. That's usually going to be на. Какое у нас задание по русскому языку на понедельник? Number 12, I highly recommend this medicine from grip, from the flu, right? Medicine for flu, or we'd say usually flu medicine, right? Очень рекомендую это лекарство от гриппа, right? The medicine is from something in Russian. Okay, number 13. From whom did you buy this chocolate? From a new friend? From your new friend? No, you know what? That's not what we mean to say here, of course. We're saying for whom, right? For whom did you buy this chocolate? For your new friend? Okay, we're doing something for a person. That's going to be для. Для кого ты купил этот шоколад? Для новой подруги? Okay, 14. My sister is sick. I bought medicine for her. Okay, what kind of medicine? Cough medicine. Medicine from cough. Я для нее купила лекарство от кашля. Number 15. What do you usually buy for your father for his birthday? Okay, that's an occasion. That's going to be на. Что ты обычно покупаешь отцу на день рождения? Until next time, до свидания, товарищи.